Cool. So I think we're live. Everything's good. I'm sitting here with Meghan Sinnott. Hey Meghan. Hey, before we go any further, I want to say welcome everybody to the first live stream with Bike Portland. Hoping to do these every week, although you never know how things are going to turn out. But that's my plan. I want to talk about the news, talk about what's on people's minds, and bring in really great people to talk about whatever it might be. Not just news, like on Bike Portland, we cover fun things too, but before we get into today's broadcast, I do want to say that things have been really hard for a while. I know for a lot of folks, and my heart is extra heavy seeing the news just now of a shooting in Lentz Park out in East Portland. That's a really tragic situation that is developing. And of course, that comes on the heels of just a really tough week of shootings, both by police, of unarmed Black people and otherwise, of just people using guns and all these tragedies that are happening. So that is weighing very heavily on my heart, and my thoughts are there. I thought about canceling today's live stream, but I also thought, given what's been happening, we could probably never do one if we kept canceling them for stuff like that, unfortunately. So what we're going to do is talk about how we're building community here locally. We've been doing that in Portland by using bicycles for a long time, and I can't think of a more important time to do that, to use our bikes to go out, to meet people, to make connections in the city, in the streets. So who better to bring on than Meghan Sinnott to talk about that? Some of you might have seen the story today that they just announced that Pedalpalooza will happen in 2021. So there's lots of excitement. There was some question if it would happen, of course, due to COVID. Some folks may remember last year was the first year since 2002 we didn't have a summer bike festival because of the pandemic, obviously. So Meghan's here to share, how we can do it responsibly and the other things she's been working on. So, hello, Meghan.
Hi, Jonathan. Thanks for having me. I would like
Sure.
to already correct you because we did have a festival last year.
That's
It was
right.
just
We had this
different. And I think that that's a really important acknowledgement, and that for last year, for this year, and for every Pedalpalooza moving forward, there will be changes, and change can and is good. That I hope next year's festival looks different than this year and the year before and the year before that. I think that there was a lot of sadness and remorse around losing Pedalpalooza last year. But from an organizer's perspective, it was one of the most empowering years, and one of the years that I finally felt connected to ride leaders and the cyclist community at large. So there, I already said that. Okay, next.
Yeah. So my first question was, how did last year's go? So for people who don't know, so last year you tried to do like an online only thing, and people would tag Pedalpalooza. So you mentioned a little bit, but how did that end up working, having this virtual Pedalpalooza last year?
Well, so the virtual part didn't really work. I mean, we were all already every day having to FaceTime friends and family and getting stuck on Zoom call after Zoom call after Zoom call. Last thing we all really wanted to do was go live while riding our bikes through the cities of Portland. That just wasn't where people were at. But that didn't stop people from getting out and riding to protest, riding to explore the city because there was nothing else to do. I would say, I mean, if it went virtual at all, it was simply that people were more likely to share their personal experiences on two wheels and had Pedalpalooza PDX. And that was super exciting. People getting out and embracing the theme. So what we did last year is encourage people to ride together separately. So for every day of Pedalpalooza, we had a theme. And so if the theme was art, then a cyclist might go and take a look at all the new murals going up, or go see some of the destruction happening to statues, and celebrating what was happening right then and there. And that was pretty rad, because normally it takes some time to plan a ride and a route, but this was just getting people out to experience Portland as it was that day, because we didn't know what it was going to look like the next day. There was no real planning for a ride. It was just like, I guess today is space day, like space is the place, let's do this. What does that mean now for me? And so that it was really sweet to see.
Cool. Yeah, I thought it was fun and inspiring given the circumstances. So about this year, I think, the big thing on everyone's mind, or maybe not, I think people might be of two minds on this one, but like, tell me a little bit about how you're going to keep things safe. When I did the story today on Bike Portland, I had this lead photo of 2,000 people on NATO Parkway on one of the kickoff ride from 2016. And I thought, I don't think Megan's going to be happy if I post that one. I think we need to be really sensitive around, blasting this thing out as going to be about, a bunch of big rides. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing in terms of keeping people COVID safe this year and what you're thinking around that.
Yeah, we have all learned so much in the last year, and we are continuing to learn. Last year, we were so scared to leave our houses, for heaven's sakes. Like this time last year, I didn't have enough proper masks. We didn't have enough information from the CDC. We were paralyzed. We were stuck in our homes and felt guilty walking around the block. And I think that this last year has taught us, if anything, that being outside with a mask on, keeping socially distant, is the safest thing that we really can do. I mean, if we're going to continue to function and move on and live our lives, that as long as we are maintaining our own commitment to wearing masks, I think we're going to be all right. We also, we have the vaccines are rolling out. I am one dose in. I'm stoked. Second one coming soon. That doesn't mean I still I can stop wearing a mask. So it's going to be encouraging people to wear masks. With having Pedalpalooza be June, July, and August this year, that's also going to discourage people from trying to cram as much as they can into June. If people haven't had the opportunity to be vaccinated, they can wait until July or August. And for those historically larger rides, they can have that ride 3 times this year if they'd like to. Nothing is stopping people from kind of spreading the love, chunking things a little bit, and honestly, not promoting as hard. Lessons learned. I had case of my own success with a mural ride a few years ago, and it got promoted in the Portland Monthly. It got written about in the Mercury, and it was just simply too many people to be an enjoyable experience for those who wanted to hear what the person had to say leading the ride or get up close to see the mural. So bigger isn't always better. And I think that if we keep ride sizes small, if we all commit to wearing masks, if we, as soon as possible, actually go and get ourselves vaccinated, we're going to have a really special summer.
So you mentioned spreading the event out. For folks that don't know, Pedalpalooza, for the most part, was 2 weeks, and then it moved to 3+ weeks. And there's always been this inertia. I think it moved to a full month. It's so fun, and people get so enthusiastic. And there were so many events that each day was just sort of bursting with events. So you sort of had to make it longer and longer. But this is the first time I can remember. I mean, it's never been 3 months before. So this is kind of a new thing. And you mentioned sort of spreading it out. That makes sense if people are more, as the vaccine gets up. But I mean, are you worried a bit about it might be spreading the fun a little too thin and it might get boring or stale, or that just, and I hate to put you on the spot because there's lots to still plan and this is fresh, but how are we going to keep Pedalpalooza interesting, in the 8th week and 9th week?
Yeah. So one of our newer volunteers, that was her big fear, is just the exhaustion that used to come after a month of intense bike fun. And she herself had gone on 30 rides one year, and at the end, I mean, she was just trashed come July. And I say to people then, welcome to 2021, where we don't have to pack everything in. That honestly, like a ride a week, a ride a month might be all we can really handle right now. And I guess I would put it back to you, Jonathan, and to the community at large, and say, what can you do to make Pedalpalooza Bike Summer a success and have it not go stale? I mean, part of going to this 3-month model was we all knew that, you know, June is a little hit or miss as far as weather goes. That you know, you would go on the taco ride, but it was too many people and you couldn't get a taco. Like, I mean, we can. Last year taught me that that history and traditions really shouldn't be held so holy. That somebody wrote that history that gets shared. Somebody is telling us what traditions are and how we celebrate. And I personally was excited last year to see, you know, what happens if you shake things up a little bit. What happens if you give people the opportunity to dream? What happens if you clear the calendar and let people start populating it in new, creative, different ways? And for this year, what happens if the person who was afraid to go against that big ride that happens the last Saturday of every month or every June could host a ride on a Saturday this summer in July or August? Like, what happens if we kind of crack it open a little bit and allow others to come in? So I would say the biggest fear that I have, okay, maybe not the biggest, but something that keeps me up at night is with the survey that we just put out. We had almost 300 people respond. Thank you, Jonathan, for getting the word out about the survey, because that was the more people who can respond to a survey, the more powerful the information that we gather from it is. And I'm looking at my notes right now, and it says that 67% of the people who had responded to that survey had never led a Pedalpalooza ride. So 67% of the people had things to say about Pedalpalooza, but hadn't yet had the opportunity to lead a ride. And that for this year, when asked if people were interested in hosting their own ride, a whopping 47.8% of the people said, nah. And only 17.2% said yes. And then the rest said, maybe. And I want to turn those maybes into yeses. And I want the no people to realize that this is a community-led festival. It doesn't happen without cyclists putting their rides on the calendar. On the like behind the scenes side, it's me and a few dedicated volunteers. I myself am also a volunteer, but it's really about the people who post the rides and the people who attend the rides.
Yeah, I love how you put that. I love how you put my question back onto me, because that's really what a lot of people, I think, increasingly, as you know, some of the sort of main founders and the main engines of what Pedalpalooza is today, as those folks have left town or sort of aren't involved anymore, I think we're seeing that, you know, there's new people coming that just want to sort of, again, sort of, you know, maybe consume the culture, but not contribute to it. And as you do that year over year, you start to lose what makes it special. So it's absolutely true. And if there are sort of Pedalpalooza newbies listening, you know, this is something that has always been just generated by people. So essentially you just have an idea for a ride. Like I've always dreamed of having this ride called Bike Skitball, where we find fun street hoops and we just dribble the ball on our bikes and we have a little tournament. Maybe we do horse from the seat of our bikes. And we're going around town to different hoops. And I'd set it up, I think, 2 years ago. And I think 2 people showed up and we ended up just playing some in one park and calling it good. But I've got that up my sleeve. But anyway, that's it. You take something you love. In my case, you know, I really like basketball. You combine it into a bike ride and you put it on the calendar and there it is. So, but
right.
If you just think that you're going to open up the calendar and enjoy everybody else's rides, you got to think again. So it's like participatory fun at its best, and that's how that's going to work well if people actually get involved. So I love that, and trust me, I'm going to be making that point as we go forward to try to get the calendar populated, this year for sure. But that kind of brings me to another thing that I would love to talk to you a little bit about, which is, for years now in Portland, we've been thinking about and understanding about how white a lot of the bike fun culture is, and it's all people that look like you and I, Megan. And here we are talking about it again, you and I being white. For years, we've been talking about that. I mean, and of course, in the last several years, it's become even sharper contrast, and it's become even more of a national reckoning and a national conversation. That's a really important part of what's happening here. I think I'm really excited because I see some things happening in the community. But was just messaging with someone today. There's some really great new groups starting up. There's some fun new rides that are starting up that are BIPOC only. So for Black and people of color and Indigenous people and women, trans, all kinds of different people that don't look like me or aren't like me, are starting new rides and new groups. And they're getting people to show up. They're basically already having Pedalpaloozas that I've been noticing in the last few months. So is there something that you've been doing as a sort of lead Pedalpalooza organizer to think about that, or to address that, to get these rides to be a little less white?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi, but you broke up a little bit, but I think I understand what you're asking.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so because you kicked off saying, historically Pedalpalooza has been largely white-led, and what the heck we're going to do about that, and how we can make this a festival that truly is community-led. And yeah, it is a problem, and it's something not only that we should do something about, that we can do something about. And I've been thinking a lot about it. And again, back to last year, finally there was time, there was space, and the conversation was at the forefront of everything that everybody was doing. How do we do better? How do we
losing your signal just a bit there. Sorry for any technical difficulties, folks. Let's see here.
And so one of the big issues is Pedalpalooza is a volunteer organized event. Can you see me? It says having trouble. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
I can hear you. You just broke up a bit, so it's not super good. If you can get a stronger signal, that'd be great. Yeah, that would be great if you could do that.
Okay.
So I'm here talking to Meghan Sinnott. She's going to look for a stronger signal so we can do this topic justice.
There's
and we are
naked bike ride painting. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Let's see if I can.
Okay, that might be better.
It's all backwards. There. Okay.
I know, that's tricky. You look great. Okay, good.
Okay, so what do we do this year? What do we do next year to continue to make sure that Pedalpalooza represents our bike community and the community at large? Well, one of the big issues that we have, and I don't know exactly how to fix this yet, but I'm working on it, is it's a 100% volunteer organization, and anybody who puts a ride on the calendar is a volunteer ride leader. Nobody's getting paid to do it. And historically, I mean, one of the things that we really prided ourselves on is that these rides were free to attend. And so, and that, for the past 10 years was our idea of inclusivity. Look, anybody can put a ride on the calendar. Anybody can attend. Anybody can show up. You don't have to have any money. You just need to know the start location. So number one issue is that we have to address what it means to have a will be 100% volunteer led and functioning. And what can we do to support those of us who aren't afforded the opportunity to volunteer our time, to blacked out again. Okay. And so I applied for a grant last year. We got an awesome Portland grant, and we used that money for the first time to pay for a Black queer social media manager. The first time that we've ever paid anybody outside of our poster designer. This year, we've upped for the first time ever the amount that we're paying our poster designer. Not by much. This is a 100% donation-based organization. So we went from $400 to $500 to pay for an artist. We've made it explicit that we are looking for a BIPOC artist. Historically, we put the call out, and then I, would direct message Portland in Color or Young Gifted in Black and say, spread the word if you can, or let us know if you know anybody, or, but that was all. It felt like that was the, oh, hey, I put the word out. I'm spreading the word to diverse communities, but it just simply isn't enough. So that's step one, is paying individuals who don't historically have the privilege to volunteer their time, and so figuring that out. So this year I have applied for a Travel Oregon grant. Wish us luck if you're out there, Travel Oregon. Help. Well, part of the money would go, if it's allowable, to pay again for a community member to do some of this work, so that it's not just volunteer time, and then also pay for PPE and other safety equipment to make sure that everybody has access to the tools that they need to be safe. And so, speaking of safe, I mean, that's another issue for this DEI work that we all need to do as a community. Last year, I was blessed to have chances to sit down with BIPOC community members, queer community members who saw our poster, who saw that things were changing with Pedalpalooza, and they took their own time to come and sit in my yard and say, here's why Pedalpalooza, Shift, these bike rides that happen every month, they're not working for me. And here's what you can do to make it better. These are the issues that I'm having, and I'm not the only one. And it was exciting to hear that things I had never even considered. Like, one individual said, why don't you guys share how fast the ride is going? What's the pace going to be? And I was like, oh, I guess I never really thought about that. Like, sometimes I get dropped from a ride. Sometimes I find myself at the front of the ride. Sometimes I'm happy to be in the middle of the ride. If I don't like it, I can like pull off and go do other things. But instead, to just be transparent and to hold people accountable. Say, if you said this was going to be a slow roll and you're screaming through stop signs and you're going down hills as fast as you can, that isn't fair for individuals who are rolling up on their bikes feeling like they're going to not be ditched. So pace was something that people had mentioned. Knowing the actual start time versus meet time, because that the gap between when people the start time and when they actually roll, that can be fun for some people, and it can be endless for other individuals, especially women, especially our queer population. I mean, individuals who simply don't feel comfortable being approached by strangers. That can be not just an uncomfortable time, that can be a really scary time. So being clear about start time or meet time versus roll time is a great way to make it a safe opportunity for people to show up. People, if they don't want to just be standing around awkwardly, they can show up 5 minutes before the ride is supposed to roll. Third thing we heard is the ride going to be, sorry, we've got multiple people on call right now. Is the ride going to be, I'm just going to sit in front of my house. Is the ride going to be a loop or not? And again, like, I mean, I just led my first Midnight Mystery ride in years. I love the mystery, but that's me.
Mm.
I have the privilege to feel comfortable getting dumped in who knows where in the Portland metro area. I've personally enjoyed taking the ride to Vancouver and then being like, good luck getting home, everybody. And so people have can decide if a ride like the Midnight Mystery Ride is safe to them. They can, if people make the decision to go on the Midnight Mystery Ride, perhaps they can like have a ride buddy. They can be sure to have a map with them. They can bring a phone charger. They can, as they start to get farther than they feel comfortable, they can turn around and go home. But this historic idea that we'll let you know where we start, but if you want to know where we end, you're going to have to, stick with us the whole time. That isn't inclusive. So providing the opportunity for ride leaders to say where the ride is going to end, or at least saying, is the ride a loop or not? And again, I think that there was this a little bit of kind of elitism around like, I mean, if we say it's going to be a loop, then people might drive to the start location. Well, you know what? If if you're not going to start your ride outside of the central core of Portland, whatever that might be to you, if you're not going to start, if you're not taking the risk yourself to start the ride past 82nd, for heaven's sakes, or anything like that. I led my ride to past 82nd, and multiple people on the ride this last month were like, "Gosh, I don't think I've ever been on a Midnight Mystery ride that's past 82nd." Like, that's frankly, that's not good. So if the ride isn't going to be a loop, share that with individuals who might find themselves 6 miles farther away from their vehicle or from the max or from a place that feels comfortable to them than they've ever been on a bike before. And so just allowing people the opportunity to like plan for that. Don't worry, Jonathan, I'll stop talking in a second. And then I think just also, I mean, it's a new year. You can say things like, this is a BIPOC-led ride. And then individuals can show up knowing that they might see a face that is familiar or looks more like them than on the ride calendar.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the biggest thing that I learned.
Okay.
So how's that? I just talked a lot at you.
No, that's good. I got pretty much all of that except for the very last part. But those are really good suggestions, and it's so nice to hear that you had those conversations and you are having those conversations with Black people and other folks about how to make these spaces better and make it more inclusive and make better, safer spaces for people that aren't like you and I necessarily, or the traditional folks that have been showing up. And I think it's great that there's just been more, like I said before, more riding groups. So I think I'd love to sort of like, we could look at how they're setting rides up and what they're doing. I'm going to bring someone on next week that's been doing some fun rides.
Good.
And so we can talk about that. And I think they're going to be excited to plug into sort of the Pedalpalooza framework, whether it's Friends on Bikes or Bike POC or Black Girls Do Bike, whatever group. I think they're going to just be able to plug right in, and we can sort of follow their lead in terms of how you structure the rides. And I'm curious, I love all the suggestions you made, and I would suggest, or I don't know how, and this is always a weird thing with Pedalpalooza, but like, how forceful can you be with people that submit rides to say, hey, here's a checklist of 4 things that like pretty much we're not going to force you to do, but you really need to consider making a space safe for Black people, Indigenous people, people of color, and please adhere to these things as you do your ride. Is that something you could maybe do this year or plan on doing?
Yeah, great question. So Pedalpalooza uses the Shift calendar, which you can find at shifttobikes.org, and that is an open source calendar that is being worked on by a handful of individuals in the bike community. And I myself don't have the chops to work on the calendar directly, but I've been making suggestions about the feedback that I've heard and the things that individuals and groups are saying. And so we have made the recommendations for changes to be made to the calendar and what it is that people enter in there. Kind of what we get in the end is to be determined. But what Pedalpalooza can do is level up, step up a bit, make some better tutorials. Even although we're just volunteer run, we can take the time to consider what information might be pertinent, especially to those who are new to biking in Portland, new to this concept of riding in a group, all of those things. That we've had some great, like, how to be a ride leader. Thanks, John Granton, like gorgeous comics, but a little bit more information about how do you like truly make a ride a safe space for more people to attend. And I would say just one more thing, because you had me thinking about this with regards to your bikes cabal.
Yeah.
That one. Your bike ride is not just, this is at you, but as an example, that if only 2 people showed up, and let's pretend that you had 5 hoops, and they were all in one neighborhood, that we can all open it up to more individuals. We can say, hey guys, here's a map, drop the basketball hoops that you see on your morning commutes down, or whatever, on your nighttime rides. The more the merrier. And you're gonna find basketball hoops down roads you've never ridden, out farther than you ever imagined you might take a ride. You're going in different neighborhoods. And that is a way to bring in new individuals to participate, and maybe to give those who aren't cyclists the heads up about which hoops you're going to be rolling past. So maybe they're already mid-game when you show up.
Well,
but and this is like, whatever, you don't have to take any of these ideas. I'm just using it because it's an example that you gave. Or reaching out to somebody who says that they want to help you with the ride, and then saying, all right, I'm a master wayfinder, and I'm great at promoting, but everything else is up to you. You find the poster designer to like amp your ride. You choose the music, and to have rides be a little bit more collaborative, especially with individuals who are like, oh gosh, I've never led a ride before, and I'm not really sure what's required. And be like, I'll do the posting to the shift calendar. You let me know what you need to make this a fun ride for you.
Cool. Yeah, I hear you. So much good stuff. I'm so excited.
Right.
No, it's good. I'm really excited that like I kind of opened this talking about how sad some things have been, such a downer, and so sad and tragic and serious. And I just think, it can be hard when we do bike stuff. That contrast can be pretty shocking and seem not very cool. But I think in this sense, Shift and Pedalpalooza has such a strong legacy of just the basic thing, which is like connecting people on the street, which we all know is so powerful. We saw that this summer, and I just so I think I'm really excited to get this going. I'm glad Pedalpalooza is happening. I'm glad you're doing all this work, all this volunteer work to make it happen, because I think we really need these community connections and the power of cycling right now to get people together. And I know that we can definitely make it appeal to and bring a lot other people that haven't been involved in the past as much, and get a wider swath of the biking population in Portland excited. So who knows? We'll probably be talking again, and I know I'm going to be talking about Pedalpalooza quite a bit on Bike Portland. So I'm going to say thanks for coming on, and it was good talking to you, and thanks for bearing with me and being sort of the guinea pig on this first thing. And you never know where it will lead.
Yeah, sorry that I lost your signal so many times.
Oh, that's probably on my end. I take all
thank
technical
you so much, Jonathan.
Responsibility. Okay, bye, Megan. Hey, everybody. So I'm still live here. I don't know if anybody else is going to tune in. I don't really care at this point if there are thousands of people or 0 people, which I think there is right now. I'm really doing this in a way too to try to get better at doing these, because I think it can be a really valuable thing in terms of connecting with more folks and sharing more about what's going on in the Portland biking world. So I hope you tune in next time. next Friday. We'll try to do it kind of at the same time, same place, and I'll promote it a little bit more. And if you have ideas for guests that might be good, or want to make any other comments, please do. And I promise next time the technology side will be better. I've got mics and other things in the mail, I guess, and we'll be upgrading the lighting and other things as well. So I appreciate you coming on and for reading and supporting Bike Portland. I'm Jonathan, and until next time, bye-bye and have fun out there.